Episode 1 of Sunny begins this new Apple TV Plus original with a robot killing a Japanese man, leaving him in a pool of his own blood. We then cut back and follow Susie Sakamoto, a woman whose life is turned upside down when she finds out her husband and son have passed away. They are in a plane crash, they're not alone in trying to find their loved ones. We seem to be in the near future where robots and humans live alongside one another. It's not as advanced as something akin to Channel 4's Human series, but the little droids roaming around are a clue to this fact. Anyway, Susie has no love lost towards robots, given one killed her mother in the past. Susie is a newcomer when it comes to Japanese customs, it seems, and she's uneasy over the Rui Katsu, a tear-seeking ceremony. This basically lets loved ones grieve while the handsome man wipes away their tears. In order to do this, the man gets each of the loved ones to find those who have passed away on the plane and listen to their voicemail messages. Susie is a little uneasy when it comes to her turn, but eventually she does shed tears. However, the phone doesn't go to voicemail and continues to ring instead. Could it be that the pair are still alive, or did something nefarious happen? Well, it may or may not be connected to the news stories confirming that Councillor Ito is dead, having suffered from a fall inside his home recently. After shopping, Susie heads home and finds a mysterious man waiting outside. He claims it's Yuki Tanaka, and apparently he used to work with her husband Masa. Well, he comes bearing a gift. And wouldn't you know it, it just so happens to be a top-of-the-line robot called Sunny. This is something that Masa has apparently been working on for years, and he's been lying to her all this time. She apparently was led to believe he worked in a freezer division, but that was relocated to Myanmar 12 years back. Sunny though has been crafted specifically for Susie, and it will only respond to her instructions. When Yuki leaves, she immediately turns it off and puts the robot into the closet. It doesn't last long though, as the robot continues to turn itself back on, but its jovial mood contrasts Susie's depressed one. Susie has enough and decides she needs to see Yuki. She shows up at Masa's workplace right in the midst of a Christmas party and finds that Yuki is the wrong man. This Yuki Tanaka is much younger and absolutely pissed out of his skull. In his drunken state, he mentions how Masa was a pretty intense and horrible boss. He even expresses how happy he is that Masa's dead, and obviously that doesn't go down too well with Susie.
Now I feel like kicking his ass.
Susie clearly doesn't know everything about her husband, and after doing some digging, stumbles upon the room we saw at the start of the series. The blood-spattered floor seems to be hiding someone who died. Could this be the counsellor who appeared on the news? Anyway, Susie shows up at a cocktail bar and gets talking to the barmaid about her dilemma, and in particular, how bots may not be wholly safe and reliable. The barmaid believes the counsellor was killed by a bot and points out how Susie needs to turn him off completely to make sure she's safe. As we soon find out, Susie is being monitored by someone who keeps an eye on her. When Susie heads home, she leaves with Sunny and drops a bot off by a bridge alone. In bed, Susie looks over pictures of the counsellor and finds the same red tyre marks on the ground. It seems to hint that a robot may well be responsible for the counsellor's death. Unfortunately, when she wakes up, she finds Sunny is back. However, just before getting rid of it, the robot does the familiar kiss hand gestures from Masa and points out once more that it was programmed for her. Episode 2 of Sunny begins with us taking a look at Masa's workplace, Imatech. The workers are drilled, with bots pacing the columns to check up on everyone. However, one of the employees checks his computer and receives a call and races out the room. There has been a security breach in level 5. We then cut back and meet Susie and Masa in the past. The latter gives Susie some advice while she's picking food out at a vending machine, but as she shows up at the counter, he arrives and sits next to her. He knows she picked the extra spicy food and takes his chance to ask her for a drink afterwards. She agrees, and further flashbacks in the episode flesh out more of Susie's past. She came to Japan for the food and culture, along with Dragon Ball Z obviously, but she actually also read an article about hikikomori, which is basically a total withdrawal from society and seeking out social isolation. It sounded perfect to her on paper, and as fate would have it, Masa has actually done this for 3 years. He doesn't believe she knows what loneliness is and goes on to guard his notebook pretty closely, claiming that these are just sketches for fun. Back in the present, Susie speaks to Sunny plainly, demanding to know what Masa was up to. Apparently this robot doesn't have any answers and despairs when Susie is annoyed at her apparent lack of knowledge. Sunny's first memory is apparently meeting Susie, so she has no idea if Masa has murderous intents. Susie brings Sunny to an engineer who points out that a robot is very advanced. The files are locked and she's been updated constantly by someone. In order to find out the truth, Susie wants to hack into Sunny and knows that there's a guide to do so. The engineer gets jittery and tells them to leave, but she does receive a guide from his assistant, who races after them, Apparently this is the Dark Manual. Nobody knows who made this, but whoever it is, they're a genius and use a specific sigil as a mark. Now this seems to jog memories for Susie towards Massa, and in particular those flashbacks we saw earlier on regarding Massa guarding his notebook. Could a clue be inside there? We still know that Massa hasn't been found yet, and Susie shows up to see Massa's mother for more answers around the sigil. She's busy having a party inside, which was apparently Hamako's idea, but the picture up on the wall with the sigil has been taken down. Massa's mum holds her cards close to her chest, and apparently she threw the picture away, but this rings alarm bells for Susie. It seems that she's definitely hiding something. Back home, Sunny and Susie riff off one another, with the robot learning from Susie and giving as good as she gets. Susie continues to look through Massa's study, desperate to find the journal and connect the dots. When she slumps against the desk, she points out all the great things about Massa to Sunny, including how he is a good dad. Sunny points out that if Massa was hiding something, it wouldn't be at home, so they need to head off to his workplace. Susie and Sunny show up at Imatech the next day. However, there seems to be some sort of barrier preventing the robot from going any further, as it continues to blurt out, Division 5 denied. She talks Yuki into giving her access down to Division 5, but when Susie gets there, all the rooms seem to be blacked out. This then ties into the opening part of the episode as the employee rushes down to Division 5 where there's been a breach. Now, Susie enters the yellow room from before and notices that the floor has been scrubbed to try and remove the blood. She rushes out when the other employee shows and manages to hide under one of the desks and remain undetected. Sunny comes to Susie's rescue though and shows up in the observatory deck above, playing exercise regimes for the workers with their VR headsets on so Susie can slip away. Susie does just that and eventually the pair head back home. Susie receives some bad news though when the airline arrives with Masha's shoes. It appears to hint that he's dead, but without a body that does seem rather unlikely. Anyway, that bot returns to its master, who happens to be the person spying on Susie all this time. It was unable to read Sunny's code but convinced it that he was from the airline. That night, Susie encourages Sunny to come sit with her in bed, mimicking Massa and holding her. However, as the episode closes out, we see that Massa covered up the murder and it appears Sunny might be part of it. The robot awakens after seemingly having a dream and seems to have a fragmented memory, and that is where the episode comes to an end. The inconsistencies with the robot technology is definitely worth taking into consideration here. Are we led to believe that robots in this world, and specifically Sunny, can dream? And if so, are we going to get the cliched idea of amnesia and slowly remembering pockets of the past? Hopefully not, as the show does have a unique tone and style that would betray such a simplistic and overused plot trope. The shorter runtime of 30 minutes definitely helps the show's pacing, and the tone swings nicely between dark comedy and mystery, with bites of horror and thriller elements thrown in for good measure. This is definitely a cocktail of different influences, but I think with Sunny it actually works really well, especially being an A24 production. These guys are known for taking risks, and Sunny definitely looks like it could be a dark horse contender this year for one of the better shows, but only if it pulls off its story, and right now it's still too early to tell whether that's the case. The banter between Susie and Sunny is partly why this show works so well, managing to elevate the dialogue as these two work together to find out the truth. Seeing how Sunny progresses over time from being this pretty timid or jovial robot to actually being as snarky and sarcastic as Susie is works surprisingly well, and the personality for both of these characters definitely helps drive this one forward. So far things are set up nicely for an intriguing little thriller to play out, but we'll have to wait and see if this one can keep it up for the rest of the season. So far though, this definitely looks to be worth keeping on your radar. Thanks for watching, and do let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash a like or subscribe to the channel, your support is very much appreciated. I'm Greg Wheeler, and from all of us over here at The Review Geek, we'll see you on the next video.